Hi everyone, Beth here. I just wanted to let you know that the Design Dialogues podcast is going on a little summer break. We are taking the next few weeks off to recoup, recover, refresh, and just enjoy this really festive time with family and friends, and getting ready to come back in 2025 with some amazing guests, and we've got some really exciting things planned for the podcast that I will be sharing with you in the new year. We have some really great episodes for you guys to revisit over the next few weeks. We've had so many new listeners join the podcast in the last 12 months that I know some of you will be hearing these for the first time. And for those of you who might have already heard these episodes, I know you were going to get even more out of them than you did the first time. I really wanted to take this opportunity to thank everyone for their amazing support of the podcast this year. It has grown in ways that I could never have imagined back at the start of this year. We have had some truly amazing guests on the podcast. We have more listeners and downloads than I could have possibly have imagined. And on top of that, we have had our first 2 live events. So 2024 has been just a phenomenal year, and I can't thank you all enough for your support. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you all back here again in 2025. We have got, as I said, some really exciting things planned for the podcast. There'll be more live events, and I'm just really looking forward to continuing the conversation with you. As always, if you want to book in for a health check or take our courses, you can do that online, and that will set you up for 2025. But over the next few weeks, I really hope you enjoy the episodes that we have put in for our summer break. And I hope you all have a wonderful holiday season, and you take the time with your friends and family and relax. Is it that if it is too far away from what your actual style is, that maybe you're looking at the wrong client?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is when you have to be really honest with yourself on the type of client you want to work with.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5, and I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our Design Dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Welcome to episode 2 of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week we are talking to Jane Mao, who is a personal brand stylist and style coach. Before we get to the dialogue, I wanted to remind you about the 30-day free trial that we offer with More Time to Design. For those of you who don't know, More Time to Design is an interior design studio and project management software that will revolutionize the way you run your studio. Follow the links in our show notes to see how you can change your business today for the better. I loved this dialogue with Jane. I've known Jane for a while, however, I still learnt so much from her during this chat. I hope you enjoy this design dialogue. Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm good, Beth. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Treat. It's a pleasure to have you on the Design Dialogues. I've been really looking forward to this chat for a while, actually, because I I really think what you do is so valuable for our industry, and it's most probably something that a lot of interior designers know about, but maybe don't understand fully how much it could really elevate their brand. So I'm looking forward to a lot of gems coming out of today's conversation.
I'm ready. I'm so ready for this. Okay, go.
So I love to ask everyone, what can they see out their window today? So I know that you have a pretty special window that you're looking at the moment.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. As you can see by my background,
Yeah.
there's a whole lot of like leaves happening and vegetation. So I'm sitting here at Lost Lindenberg in Bali, and my view is of the ocean. There's waves crashing on the beach, like, wind blowing, and I'm sitting in amongst the trees because we're in a sort of like a tree house situation, and it's like, yeah, we haven't been able to leave the room. I think it was designed to keep you in. We have a sneaky suspicion the Germans just designed it that way, because you don't want to leave.
Sounds like heaven.
Oh yeah, 100% heaven.
So, I suppose to start, I'd love to hear about your business. So, some of you in the industry might know Jane from her days at CDK, and Jane answered many questions of mine about some random stone things. So, but you do something very, very different now, and I'd love to understand and know about how you got there.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, yeah, we met at CDK, and a whole lot of people who are listening to this would know me from CDK. And I tell you what, I'm like walking through the hotel right now, and I'm like, ooh, granite, quartzite, yep.
That information never leaves you.
Oh my gosh, never leaves them. Like, oh, yep, they've buffed the ends of that. That's nice with the mitre there. I'm like, yep. Honestly, that stuff never leaves you. So yeah, I was kind of, when you met me, Beth, I was taking a break from this world.
Yeah.
And I had burnt out. I'd spent a lot of years in it. And I've been doing this for 16 years, a bit on the side, and then now back to full time. And when you met me, I was kind of having a break and sort of rebranding my business, because before CDK, I was working as like a fashion editor for Mind Food Style magazine. If you don't know, Mind Food is basically a magazine for people that love sustainability. We call it someone who's like green with lipstick.
Yeah. It's a great description.
Like, yeah. Has like the Dior bag, but like loves to believe in sustainability. Yeah. So, we're like eco-friendly and like chic, but we've got the latest luxury goods. So that's the Mind Food.
Yeah.
So I travel the world, shooting in various locations like Argentina, through the States, producing that magazine. And then I moved to Sydney in 2015 from Auckland, New Zealand. And I just went, you know what? People just stop for a second. I need a break. I was burnt out. And so that's when I started sort of thinking, okay, what can I do with my skills and my talent to sort of make a difference in the world and help people? But I still use my skills, right?
Yeah.
But go away from the whole magazine world where everything was just advertising focused. It was heavily dependent on like pleasing the advertisers, and sort of help like the normal human being.
Yeah.
But through my time at Mind Food, I had like a bunch of people on my personal styling books. And I never really saw myself as a personal stylist. So I was like, hang on, why are these people always coming to me? Obviously, they see my name in the magazine.
Yeah.
But at the same time, a whole lot of them had the same, the same pattern. There were business people wanting me to tell them what to wear to like meetings, getting them to like show up and nail that interview, get the big client. I had like 5 people who still work with me now, like 10 years later. And I was just like, hang on, there's something in this.
Yeah.
And that's when you met me, I was rebranding to be a personal brand stylist, because I was like, you know what, there's a whole lot of business people out there who don't know what they're doing, and then they're just showing up, not really thinking about what they wear and how that actually influences people's buying perception.
Yeah.
You know, so that's when, 5 years ago, I started rebranding, reworking my messaging, and here I am today, 2023, working out of Bali.
Love it. Love it.
on Zoom. Here we are.
So you kind of touched on it there, and I think I know what a personal branding stylist is, but I would love, can you what's your elevator pitch definition of a personal brand stylist?
Okay, so for me, a personal brand stylist is someone that takes you as a business owner, you as the personal brand, because if you're someone who's showing up online, or even you are a brand, like there's no denying that what people see are what they are being influenced by, right? So that makes you a brand. For me, it's about elevating what you wear so that perception meets reality, I suppose. Like people are buying into that perception of what you can produce. So as an interior designer, you're like, okay, so I want to work with clients that can invest a lot of money into their projects. So what do I need to look like for that client to believe that I've got what it takes to deliver on that project? Right. And I'm not saying go and buy a whole lot of Louis Vuitton and Chanel and deck you out in like because we don't want that client either, right? No. This is a certain client. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying it's like little tweaks where you think, okay, is my client, like I've worked with a whole lot of interior designers, and some are like, okay, my clients have like $7 million budget to work on a project up in the coast, and they're looking at eco-friendly, sustainable building materials. So when I walk into the room, I need to look like I know what I'm talking about, what the hell I'm talking about, and I need to look sharp. But there is a way you choose materials and like texture with what you wear and how you wear it that's communicating, yes, I can go out and pick you a amazing tile from yada yada, and it'll be eco-friendly and it look amazing. But a lot, so when I work with clients, I'm like, okay, so what are you wearing at the moment? They're like, wow, I woke up in like t-shirt and like a pair of jeans. I'm like, is that communicating that you can be trusted to go out there?
And so that's really interesting, like you use the word trust, because I think, as interior designers, when we're pitching to clients, we're selling a service and we're selling a transformation. And there is a level of trust that comes into that, because the client has to trust you that you are going to take, this plot and make it something really pretty or functional and all that kind of stuff. And so I find it really interesting that, that connection between trust and, like, as you said, like if someone's turning up in like a scruffy pair of sneakers and jeans and they want the client to pay, top dollar, there's this real misalignment kind of thing. And the client's not going to trust you.
100%. So if you think about it, these clients have been looking at Pinterest boards after Pinterest boards, flicking through their phone on Instagram, and they're looking at these amazing properties all around the world going, oh, I really love that interior with the beautiful space and the furniture and da-da. And you rock up looking like you don't belong in that space. They're like, okay. Okay, different if you've won the client and they've worked with you on various projects, right? That's when you can start being a little bit like, okay, I'll just show up a casual today as opposed to other days. But when you're trying to win over a big portfolio, oh my gosh, what's to say that you are, I'm just going to drop some names here. You're not competing with the likes of like Blaney North. Right? So they're literally comparing you to Blaney North. Like, and people will say, well, they can choose Blaney North. I'm not Blaney North. Blah, blah. But it's not about choosing Blaney North. It's about them trusting that you can deliver.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
it.
And how do you, because I think something as well that I find really interesting, like I really do think we live in such a brand, like brand is such a thing that we live in these days. Like, you know, everything is a brand and everything, you know, people are brands and all that kind of stuff. How do you really set that personal brand so that you look the part for whatever client is that you're kind of getting, but then maybe you don't completely lose yourself in that as well? Like, how do you mesh those two things together?
Yeah. So
Or,
I feel or
or
go on.
is it that if it is too far away from what your actual style is, that maybe you're looking at the wrong client?
100%.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is when you have to be really honest with yourself and the type of client you want to work with to fruition. So you got to be prepared that you can deal with the alpha client, or like the ones that are a little bit chill on like relaxed and like easygoing, or do you want the ones that are like they want every finishing to be like the freaking crown like you know Crown Casino or whatever in Sydney. So you have to sit with yourself and go, who am I as a person? What do I like? And to be honest, I can't actually explain on a podcast what that means in terms of your clothing, because every person is different personality wise. But you should be able to bring that out in your clothing and still look polished, elevated, and be able to sit there in a meeting and be seen as the go-to expert in whatever space you're selling in. Now, I'm going to say that the person that's selling, that's doing renovations at like $200,000 home is going to look very different to a person that's doing a $7 million, $20 million project. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So just, like look at what market are you playing with and what are they used to surrounding themselves with? Because the people that are hanging out in that market with the $20 million homes or seven, they're used to a very certain level or certain aesthetic that they surround themselves with. So it's about then going, okay, how do I align myself personality wise, not lose myself, align myself and still retain a part of me while I work with these clients? Because at the end of the day, you've got to be the person wearing those clothes and you don't want it to feel like a costume. There's a fine line between wearing clothes that will attract the client and not, make you feel like you're wearing a costume. It still has to be you.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Like, and I love the way, like, I know that I have a couple of things that if I'm feeling crappy, I know that and I've got like a big day of meetings or stuff and I really need to kind of, amp myself up for them. I know if I put that outfit on, I'm good. It's like that superpower that clothes give you kind of thing, that it's like a little bit of an armor. And I can imagine if you have done the work with like someone like yourself, you've got like, it just gives you more of that kind of thing. And it's like, it's that real energy that comes from it. That must be so helpful when you are building a brand and building a business kind of thing, because it's one thing for interiors to be beautiful, but if there's a mismatch with the person who's out the front, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, 100%. And something that just came to me then, it's aligning how you look with the interiors that you produce.
Yes.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. If it's like walking into, I don't know, you know how you walk into like beautiful spaces and someone just sticks out like a sore thumb and you're like, I don't know what it is, but like I feel like you don't belong here.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you might be a really nice person. I'm like, there's something a bit off. Right. Like, not quite right.
I love it.
know.
I love it. Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And so I feel like this list could be so long, and I'm sure I've committed half of it. But what are some of the common mistakes you see people making when I feel like as a business owner, you kind of go from a stage of, okay, I've got to work on the business and I've got to do all those systems, like I've got to get all the stuff going. And then kind of a little bit, you're a bit further down the business path and you go, okay, like I need to kind of elevate my whole offering. And
Yeah.
from social media and website and all that kind of stuff. And I imagine that that is most probably the time when people start to go, okay, like I also need to elevate my presentation. What are some of the
Yes.
common mistakes you see people making when they are starting to enter this awareness of personal branding?
Well, it's funny. I teach this in my group program as well. It's not starting from the very like sort of step one, which is
Yeah.
knowing your ideal client.
Yeah.
Like really digging deep and going, okay, how many clients have I had over the last like 12 months or even like the space of 2 years? What's the common thread and who do I want to work with? And then going, is that my ideal client? And how do I fit in with that ideal client? And how do I attract more of those? I think there's it's almost like a disconnect from their business. They think that their clothing is not connected to their business because when you think interior, you think tiles and you
Yeah.
think wallpaper and all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like, but you are the business.
Yeah.
So why don't you start at ground zero going, okay, who are my clients? What is it that make me and them kind of gel?
Yeah.
And how can I elevate myself so I can attract more of those? And yeah, so many times when they come to me, and I ask their question, it's almost like a huh? What has that got to do with anything? And
Yeah.
like, well, you're in amongst the spaces and
Yeah.
their habitat, not yours.
Yeah. So
We need to, yeah,
yeah. So it's kind of
yeah,
like the clothes are almost the last part of the puzzle. Like
yeah,
there's,
yeah.
you really need that whole picture of who are you pitching to and what is your business and who is your ideal client. And I mean, they
Yeah.
are all the same questions that if you've done a marketing course or if you've done any kind of business strategy course, they are the same
A
questions you're getting
hundred
asked.
percent, 100%. Okay, so get this. When I was at CDK,
Yeah.
right, the way I was dressed was targeted towards the person that I was working with in Mossman, Dover Heights,
Yeah.
Bellevue Hill. I wanted all those projects. Of course, I showed up looking like that.
Yeah.
There was a way I was wearing stuff and like I had my button up collar, like I would
Yeah.
have black, and I even down to like my eyewear. I chose eyewear
Yes.
that was very specific. You remember
Yeah,
that,
I
right?
do. I do. I always thought of it almost as your uniform with the button up shirt.
Yeah,
And yeah. Yeah.
but I was doing it for a reason. I was doing it because I knew if I looked the part, those clients, those interior designers would trust me with my choice of stone
Yeah, definitely.
and like advising in the right direction because they would trust that I knew their projects
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
had their best interests at heart, right?
Yeah.
So if I could do that, selling stone,
Yeah. No.
you, yeah,
It's
it
like,
all ties in.
yeah, it's just, I mean, I find this so, so interesting. I suppose one of the things that and you kind of alluded to it before about how sometimes I think people, it's almost like they go too far down a path and it's like a costume and it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
like you are just, like, it's just not great.
yeah.
But like, how do you work with clients to, especially maybe someone who hasn't thought of themselves this way before, is maybe moving from, they've worked in a studio before and they haven't maybe been as client facing in that studio and they've taken the leap to step out into their own business. And now all of a sudden they really are the face of the business and they are client facing and all of that kind of stuff. How do you can it be a bit of a journey with them to kind of go, okay, it is going to feel like a costume and it is going to feel a bit funny to start with, but stick with it and you will get there?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've worked with those that have worked in like the big sort of studios where black is the norm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you don't wear anything else. And if you wear anything that's not black, you are seen as the outsider.
Yeah.
But in their hearts, they love color.
Yeah.
And so I'm referring to a particular client that I've worked with that used to work for a very, very high-end design studio in Sydney, and their uniform is black. And so and so when I did this work with her, and she said, gosh, I love recommending color and recommending things to people that have more personality and texture. And I said to her, okay, let's go on this like exploration. It's always an exploration. And I think when I'm working with a client, it's a collaboration between me and them.
Yeah.
And my process is very much an immersion of like understanding what your business is. Again, when I ask about the ideal client and I ask about how much they want to make in the next like 2 to 5 years, what their projection is, they're like, you're just a personal stylist. Why the fuck? Like, why are you?
Yeah.
Why does this matter?
Yeah.
Because we need to like shift you in the direction so you can be a magnet,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we go back to like getting into their closet and seeing where the patterns are. Because it's funny because I always say to people when I go through their closets, I'm like, you will pick up the things that light you up the most without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
So when I go through people's closet and I see a whole lot of linen, and I ask with the question, why linen? And they go, well, I just love like, the natural weave and the texture. And then I look at their projects and it's very much beige with like linen texture. And I'm like, well, there's obviously, an alignment there.
Yeah.
Or, you know what I mean? You can always find an alignment with the person and what they choose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if I've answered your question, but it's very much that like looking deep within what you've got already.
Yeah.
And making like, finding the patterns. Like I feel, well, what is it that I call it? Like the stones, the breadcrumbs.
Yes. Yeah.
The breadcrumbs that'll give me clues as to who the person is connected to their project. It's funny that you're asking me this question because this week, segue, I really had this like over the past like week, sort of been thinking about why I don't take people's personal shopping as such.
Yeah.
So as a personal shopper, you meet up with someone at the mall.
Yeah.
And you tell them what you want and they take you to the shop and that's it. Whereas I'm very much a person that goes, hang on a minute, let's like dig through this shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's like get in there, get
Yeah.
our hands dirty, figure you out. And the shopping bit is like 4 steps after or 5 steps after. Because if we don't start with the ideal client, where you want to be, why the hell are we going shopping? We're shopping blind.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, though, that so much gives the person, though, the tools to build on those people themselves. Like, it's not like they're kind of going to the shops and if you're not there holding their hand and they're kind of like deer in headlights, like, oh my God, like I'm describing myself here. But if you have given them the tools and they really understand why you are making the selections you're making, then they're going to be so much more confident to do that when they're on their own.
100%. And that's what you want from people. That's what you want to, as a, I don't know, I guess now more than ever, I'm a stylist plus a coach as well. It's like giving you the tools so that even when I'm not there, you've become aware and it's become a habit.
Yeah.
Because as my clients always say, you're now in my head.
Yeah.
Because I've said ideal client a million times.
Yeah.
And it becomes like shit, yeah, I've got to think about that. Yep. So yeah, it's funny that you've asked me this question, because the last week I'm like, why is it that I've never sold that package?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right, because I don't attract the client that just wants a wishy-washy surface levels approach. No, I don't do that. And I have no inclination of wasting your time, wasting time and wasting your money.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And so I see, as I said, I see so many similarities between what you do and what interior designers do, because interior designers are so much about creating a space. It's not just about pre-finishes. There's context and how does the space feel and does it function and all of that kind of stuff. And so much I can imagine when you're working with someone,
it's exactly that.
It is there's context and it has to work. And, I couldn't say to you, well, Jane, I've got this a massive pitch for a $20 million project, but I also have to go and pick up the kids from soccer training. So can you give me an outfit that works for both?
We're definitely putting you in amazing, super chic, trainers that look $1 million, but don't cost you $1 million.
And so the thing that I suppose, when one thing that you kind of get clients that come in and they're like, oh, we want this thing that we've seen in a magazine, and it's like, okay, well, that's not really going to work, but it's on trend and they really want it. How do you work with clients who that those on trend pieces kind of thing that it might be how do you tailor that all in, or not tailor, weave that into the story so that you do you do feel like you're on trend as well as being on brand, which I suppose are two different things?
Yeah, interesting question. Trend is another thing, and having fashion pieces is good in some ways. I would say that you almost need to have those. Are you actually buying into trend, or are you buying pieces that are classic? Not classic, but they might be on trend now, but me as same as you as a designer, when you're choosing finishes, that won't go out of date in the next 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
Right. So it's about choosing the right things. I don't know how to communicate that to people unless you've worked with me or in my styling membership.
Yeah. You're not giving away all the secret sauce.
Yeah. I choosing the right pieces that, even me now showing up on Zoom with you.
Yeah.
Yes, you said to me, it will be recorded. I'm thinking, will this video content last for the next 10 years? Am I looking like I could just be now talking to you in 2023 and in 2033? So it's about weaving in, I guess, pieces that won't date.
Yeah.
And as a designer, what things will date, right?
Yeah.
You've seen
definitely.
it. Yeah.
Definitely.
And it's something that I guess when you work with the stylist, it's either they have the eye for it or they don't. Same as an interior designer.
Yeah.
I've worked with interior designers that don't have the eye for it and the ones that do. Yeah. And I can tell you now, there's a major difference. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I'm sure you've seen it all. And I suppose one thing that, because I think, as I said at the start, I think a lot of interior designers, they will be aware of personal brand stylists, or they might not, but they will be aware of a stylist that you might get in for a photographer kind of thing and all that kind of stuff. What is the process that you take people through when you're working with them? Obviously we've talked about that, you've got to get those foundations right, but what is the process? Is it a year-long process? Is it a quick, short, sharp thing? How do people, what is the journey you take people on? Gosh, I hate that word, but it works.
The journey. It really depends where you're at. I've got clients that are the interior designers that want like a quick fix.
Yeah.
Let's do this, fix my wardrobe. I need to show up in front of the client. So, that could be a 6 weeks journey.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. And then, we're shopping at the 3rd, 4th week mark.
Yeah.
And I'm just putting together outfits for you and we're finishing off within 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But there are ones where, things take 3 to 6 months or even a year because they're so busy. They've got things going on in between those bits as well. Like, they're either showing up for speaking engagements where I have to source other things, or they're showing up for podcasts, or they've become this brand that's bigger than, like it's bigger than Ben-Hur. So that's when I'm really there as the curator of that brand.
Yeah.
And, you yourself might know some interior designers that do this, but definitely the ones like I work with a lot of business coaches that are, they're a big personal brand. And so they've got like photo shoots happening after photo shoots, content being produced. You're talking sales pages and Facebook ads, Instagram ads. So I'm always styling in between months as well.
Yeah. So you're really a very integral part of their team.
Yes. Funny that you say integral part of their team, because when I worked for Mindfood Style as a fashion editor, one of the biggest things for me was being a creative director, directing the shoot in a certain way that when you're shot, like, even down to the lighting, the background that we're using, it's very much, I'm standing there directing the photographer to do a certain shot so it can be used for your sales pages. Instagram, LinkedIn. So I'm very much the brains behind photo shoots now for a lot of my business coach clients.
Yeah. Wow.
And
how do you integrate into, like, so I'm thinking about, if you're pulling together a branding shoot, how do you work in, like, what other parts of their team do you work in with to go, okay, well, to work out what shots you need, kind of thing? Is that being driven by the client, or are these clients that have got, they might have marketing people who, sales people who are creating the content for them, and so they're directing you saying, okay, well, Jane, we're going to need this, this, and this kind of look?
It depends on the firm.
Yeah.
So it depends on the size of their business. So for example, when you're working solo, say you're not part, like if you're comparing yourself to someone like Smart Design Studio, we all know. They've got a marketing team, a PR team, and if I walked into that and I was, say for example, styling, what's his name? Is it William Smart? Will, right? Yeah. Of course, I'm going to be told by the marketing team that this is their brand vision and this is the way we're driving it.
Yeah.
But when you're a solo business owner, you don't have much of that team. Yeah. I'm the person that drives that. So I will sit with you and go, okay, what is it that you want? Like, what's your vision? What client are we trying to attract? Same process as your wardrobe.
Yeah.
And I design the wardrobe to that. But I also go, okay, well, in that case, if you want the $20 million client, that we might need to be hiring a space that communicates that.
Yeah.
And so I plan out all the shots, and it's a whole process of to and froing on Zoom, going, this is how we're going to shoot it, landscape, portrait. And I very much sort of, I would say the photographer doesn't even have a hand in it.
Yeah.
When I'm creative directing, because I say what the lighting should be. And I do work with a photographer, but photographers don't like it when people don't have direction.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting. Because
it makes their life easier.
Yeah, I feel like as well, like, as we were talking about, like, someone most surely is coming to you when they're maybe, I don't know, 2-3 years into their business, and they've kind of gone, okay, we're over, the initial chaos. Now we're getting to the point where we've got a few clients under our belt. we are most probably looking at going, okay, we're now moving away from, I will just say yes to whatever work is coming in the door because I have bills to pay, to starting to think about clients in a bit more of a strategic way and really working on defining who is my ideal client, where am I going, like, do I want to move into those higher echelons of budgets? And that might not be where people want to go. There is, I really think there's a sweet spot in terms of budgets. Like, I think, bigger budgets sometimes just means bigger headaches. But I suppose that's a really lovely service that you bring, because as you said, like, someone who's working on their own, they don't have a PR and marketing team to help them do all of this kind of stuff. So to have someone on their side, and I think quite often people go, okay, I'll book a branding shoot. And you turn up and you're like, okay, well, I'll stand here and I'll stand here and I'll do my flat lay and I'll like have my laptop kind of thing. And, they all look the same, but there's not a lot of personality coming through in those shots kind of thing, because, 8 other interior designers have done the same branding shoot kind of that day. And so it's a really lovely service that you offer in that kind of helping smaller interior designers, well, not just interior designers, but smaller people access those services that kind of sometimes feel so unattainable to people on their own.
100%. And it takes a certain eye to do that. It's funny that you said people don't think about it, because a lot of people don't. And then I've had so many people approach me after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
But
I also don't think, unless you've done a branding shoot,
you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know. And I think the first time you do a branding shoot, you usually walk away going, oh God, let's do that differently next time.
You learn your lesson and you're like, okay, I should have been more prepared.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, people mistake the photographer for what the photographer does. The photographer is there to take the photos.
Yes.
They're not your creative director.
Yeah.
They're not your marketing team and your branding team.
Yes.
They couldn't care less if you wanted a $20 million client.
No.
That's not their job.
No, exactly. I mean, and it's the same when you get your interiors photographed. Like, some photographers will, give you a bit of direction, or like, but a lot of them, they're just like, where do you want me to take the photo? Okay, we'll do it here, kind of thing. Like, there isn't, I think people don't realize that not all photographers are going to have that bigger picture in mind.
Yeah. And also, if you are expecting that bigger picture, then pay for that.
Yeah.
Most of us are trying to cut corners, yet you don't understand what you get with cutting that corner.
Well, yeah. And I think also, what corners can you cut?
Yeah.
And which ones you really can't. Like, I think that is, and I think that's sometimes where creatives are their own worst enemy, because they're like, well, I'm creative, so I'll be good. But
I'll be good.
I'm creative in an interior space. I am not, my creativity doesn't translate to other areas, kind of thing. And so I think sometimes interior designers fail to see the value that other creatives can bring them.
Yeah, 100%. And, even when I work as a team, when I'm project managing, creative directing, I'm also asking the hair people, the makeup people, what is your view on this?
Yeah.
And, based on my experience, I know when someone can't deliver. Like, I look at their portfolio, I'm like, you're really shitting me if you think you can do that work.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a kind of like a certain handwriting, only because I spent so long doing magazine work. I know the caliber that it requires to shoot a certain way.
Yeah.
So when you're hiring someone, it's not about trying to just save you time and emotional, mental bandwidth. It's the experience they bring to the table.
Yeah.
To make your brand look like the shit.
Yeah, no, totally. Oh, so true. So true. And I feel like this is just a conversation that I just, And it is hard. Like when in the
Oh,
early days of your business, you don't have the massive bank balance,
oh,
and, you know, photography and branding is something that, oh my goodness, you can spend so much money on it.
yeah,
But I think if you have a really great team that knows what they're doing, and
yeah.
yes, they are going to cost you more, but the gain and the what your end product is just so much more. Like you can't really measure.
Oh my gosh. I had a student in my NYS style program because we do an 8-week stint. And she is an accountant. She owns an accounting firm down in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And they booked a whole team, like their whole team was taken out of work to do their branding shoot at this amazing location. And I said to her, "Oh, how did you go? You know, how in one of the calls, how did you go?" And her face just fell because not only did she take her team out of working, she also lost out on the photography that she thought would be delivered, like the end result, because she didn't know she didn't know how to communicate to the photographer. And of course, the photographer had the amazing portfolio,
Yeah.
but you can look at someone's work and go, well, who was the team behind that? You don't
Yeah.
know that someone like me was behind that, directing that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as she said to me, look, absolute thousands down the drain. I'm not doing that again. And I
Ah.
went, you're hit with like a $10,000-$15,000
Yeah.
mistake.
Yeah.
Couldn't you have done it right the first time?
Yeah. And look, I think something that I suppose as well, like it's not like you're making this investment. You don't need to make this investment regularly. Like if you do it
Oh
well, you really only need
gosh,
to do it once and
a hundred
possibly
percent,
refresh 3-4 years. But
a
it's
hundred percent.
not a regular occurrence kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. And I need you to think about this as like your billboard ad.
Yeah.
When you're driving down the M1 and you see those amazing billboards,
Yeah.
that's the stuff that you're trying to create. And then the bits and pieces in between, the stuff that go on your Instagram, yes, they can be also be collected in amongst that branding shoot, but you can also fill those gaps in your Instagram by portrait mode on your iPhone.
Yeah.
But when someone comes to your website, or there's stuff that, if you're, gosh, podcast is a massive thing these days, or if you're on YouTube, if you wanted to really build that personal brand and make people want to buy into you, that banner, that billboard needs to scream.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I always say to people, it's your hero pieces,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's the stuff you want pushed out there into the world.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I, yeah, I could go on all day. Do you have all
Oh,
day,
no,
Beth?
I was kind of like, it's kind of, I think it's like, that, oh, people like, so many people these days talk about content and they're like, well, it's social media. And it's like, well, actually, no, social media is only part of it. Like content is so much more from that. And if social media
Oh,
is driving your content, then you're a bit off. And it's
yeah.
kind of like this as well. Like if you are creating images for social media, then you're missing the mark. Like there's so
Mm.
many bigger things that you need to be picking from and making sure you're getting right.
Oh my
Social
gosh.
media is
I mean,
part of that, but
yeah.
yeah,
And and social media is so many different avenues. You've got the podcast, the YouTube, the TikTok, and whatever. But even there's so much more than that. Even if you were to go and speak at someone's event,
yeah,
or say Adidomus suddenly
yeah,
came to you and they, hey Beth, we'd love you to come and speak at our guest night or our VIP night
yeah,
as our main designer. What is making Adidomus want to approach you?
yeah,
Because
yeah, exactly,
they
exactly.
obviously see the brand alignment there, right?
Yeah,
They
totally.
believe that you've got the client that's going to buy all their freaking stone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That was a good analogy. That was a good analogy.
Awesome. I think in a way, I feel like a little bit like sometimes with this kind of stuff, you have
Mm,
to jump off the cliff
yes.
and know that you kind of got to believe in yourself and believe in it, that it's going to feel uncomfortable while you're in
Oh,
between the two, But when you land,
Yeah.
it's going to be amazing, and you're really going to see the payoff in it.
Yeah.
Like your brand is just going to explode. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, gosh, I've got clients that do, okay, you don't have to do this. This is like the other side of the spectrum. They do, their personal branding hero shoot every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's driving that 7-figure
Yeah.
mark.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very different client. So if you see me posting the same client year after year, and okay, it's a different business type, business business. It's very much driving that sales, because they're trying to attract more and more and more, and they've
Yeah.
got the team and they're building the
Yeah.
team. So it really depends on where you're at with your
Yeah.
business and how far you want to push it.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you've got to make sales.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. That's the thing. Ultimately, you do need someone to pay you.
Yeah. And without money coming in, and without selling yourself and selling what
Yeah.
getting people to buy into you, there is no business. It's just a hobby. It's just a hobby.
And I suppose I always think of it like this. Like, I know sometimes people think, oh, it's just going to be so much money, I won't do anything. And I suppose I'm always like, well, how about, is there something small you can do? And
Yes.
do that. And then when you
Yeah.
have a little bit more income coming in and you have a little bit more, cash flow, maybe do something, the next step kind of thing. Like, I always think when it comes to this kind of things, it's not black or white, everything or nothing. I think, it can be small and incremental.
Work in progress is what I say. Work in progress.
Definitely.
So, I mean, just before I came to Bali, I was working with a property investor, and she was the same. She's just left a big firm, and now she's out on her own. She's just invested in a company to do the website, and she could only afford 2 hours of my time.
Yeah.
So I work with people in that way where I'm literally telling you what to wear.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, this, that.
Yeah.
In your wardrobe right now. So I'm coming in, we work with whatever you have. And then next time, when you're able to afford me to do the whole shebang of the client, then we can do that.
Yeah.
But it's about taking it like one step at a time.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So many good things.
So many good things. I can come back, Beth. I can come back.
We'll have series like part 2.
Part 2.
So Jane, what are you looking forward to in your business in the next 12 months?
I think I'm just like, I haven't even gotten started.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's such an exciting place to be.
Oh my gosh. I thought that I was really niching when I started to call myself personal brand stylist, when my social media strategist and I sat down and we're like, what is it that we're really communicating? Who is it that want to work with?
Yeah.
And when I said, I was like, you know what, I couldn't care less if it didn't have a business.
Yeah.
Because for me, it's about driving sales. You know me from CDK.
Yeah.
I love selling. Selling.
Yeah.
So if I'm not driving sales for you, if I'm not driving that, what is it called? The goalpost for you, then it doesn't give me any fulfillment.
Yeah.
And so I think I'm just getting started in terms of like educating people in terms of what a personal brand can really do for you. And if you really know how to build it and tweak your image in a certain way that people believe in what you're saying, oh my gosh, you're going to become very unstoppable.
Yeah.
So for me, in the next, I guess I'm looking at only the next 2 years is getting in front of more people, more podcasts. I started thinking today, I'm like, I really need to be on a podcast every week. Like, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just Zoom, like an hour of Zoom.
Totally. I just think podcasts, I reckon it's the media, the form of media that I consume the most of, because I listen to it while I'm doing other stuff, and it's just, I feel like it's such a great medium.
Oh my gosh. And, I myself listen to a lot of podcasts. especially business podcasts, and I'm doing it while I'm doing the dishes or I'm just doing stuff around the house.
Yeah.
And so what do we do as a designer to get you on more podcasts? Because more and more people are spending time on these platforms, especially the people that have a lot of money to drop in their interior. They're hanging out on these big podcasts.
Yeah.
How do we get you in front of those people? Are you looking like the person that can be invited to this podcast? Because I was just saying to Beth before we jumped on that, like, I've now been, I didn't tell you, but this morning as well, I got invited to another personal brand podcast over in the US.
Awesome.
That has a lot of coaches on it.
Awesome.
And it came off because I'm talking about personal style and personal brand, and I'm looking like I can deliver on speaking to that level of CEO.
Yeah.
So, so much can be done. Oh my gosh, if you only knew what clothes can do for you.
I love it. I really love it. No, I think it's something that we are definitely, I mean, you alluded to it before, but I think we're most probably a little bit slow on the uptake here in Australia. But I do think it's something that we, especially when we work in an industry that is so visual, like ultimately we are making, like, it is so visual. So it just seems like such a natural fit that us as a brand will also look the part. So and
it amazes me how people don't sort of put the two and two together.
No, I know.
You're literally putting stuff on your website so that it gives the visual clues that people can invest in you. So why don't you put why don't you look the part as well? It's like double whammy.
Oh gosh. Oh wow. You've got lots of work. You've got years of work ahead of you, Jane. You'll be fine.
I'll be writing a book soon. I'll be like,
I love it. And so how can our community connect with you, work with you, follow you, all of that kind of stuff?
Oh my gosh. I am massive on Instagram.
Yeah.
I only have, a certain number of followers because I'm constantly looking at my followers, deleting them, removing them. Because if you look like someone from like Muhammad from India, like, you're not going to, like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't want you as a follower. I want my content to be seen by the right people.
Yeah.
So come and hang with me on Instagram. My handle is Jane Mo. Stylist. So if you, and of course, if you go onto this podcast, there'll be links and whatever.
We'll have all the links in the show notes. But
so that would be the best place to kind of suss out.
Yeah, perfect.
My vibe.
Yeah. And on your website, do you have I know you have all the ways people can work with you. So you run a course and also your personal sessions.
Yeah. I'm currently updating my website, but so it's very much in a development stage. Best to book a call and we can talk about various ways we can work together. Like I think Beth was saying, you can either start small or you can take the big kahuna. The big kahuna and just jump in.
Love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Jane, I have loved this dialogue. I could talk to you for hours, but I've got to let you get back to beautiful Bali and enjoying your, what is it? Your technology nomad? That's not right.
Oh, digital nomad.
Digital nomad.
Working out of my laptop.
I love it. I love it. But so thank you so much for joining us. And I will link to all of your things in the show notes. So thank you so much, Jane.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you.
Wow, what a great chat with Jane. I have come away with so many notes from that. I hope you found it as interesting and inspiring and educational as I did. I think one of the things that stood out for me was how your brand and how you show up is so important in attracting the right client. And it's really, as much as we talk about how we have to sell the transformation, we also have to sell ourselves. We have to show our clients or our potential clients that we are going to be able to deliver on what we say we can, and that we can transform their space. And so much of that comes down to first impressions and how we are with them. So, oh my goodness, so many gems out of that conversation with Jane, and I really hope that you found it as interesting and inspiring as I did. Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. To organise your day, your desk and your studio, make sure to sign up for your free 30-day trial of More Time to Design to see how it can transform your business. Follow the links in our show notes. If you would like to get in touch, please reach out on email at beth@moretimetodesign.com or on Instagram at more_time_to_design. I would also love it if you could rate and review this podcast, which help others find it. Follow the link in our show notes. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next design dialogue.